Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the family friend story coloring activity right here. As you see right here, as I went ahead and drew right here, you say say the college campus of Mizzou it is, and if anybody have seen it, of course from the previous videos, of course I posted it was is knowing about is talking about say you say right here is like you have right here is like the student loan unit is. So right here is like you have right there is where I think the Starbucks coffee would be located at. Of course, a few study rooms it is, and then right back in here will be like what you call like say Stanley Hall is like a building, and then right here is Jesse Hall, and of course your hair right here is the Francis Quadrangle, and with most of us we'll probably think about the with the Francis Quadrangle that it's like talking about right here. It's like the amount of detail, of course, I added to it. Kind of looks like eyes. You say with toothpick type design on there. But other than that, basically I went ahead and drew right here is like a map. So I guess anybody will probably think about it as like yeah, it's like talking about it's like any other type of detail, of course, that you want to add to it. But anyway, right here is that. While I was doing this coloring right here, I was also thinking about the word that's like so far for attention, and anybody probably think about it's like for attention it is, and knowing about what the word say for for attention it is that I can tell anybody here that with the word attention is like talking about is that with you say with any kind of college, if it's what you call it, if it's Rolla or if it's St. Charles Community College or if it's Mizzou or any college like that. But basically the whole story talks about from the beginning it's like it would have been about 1994 was like I may have mentioned before it was, and 1994, and we were with a friend of ours, my family and I, we were with a friend of ours, and I can remember that let's just say this was like campus right here, college campus, and with anybody to think about it, it's like if they were with somebody, a friend of theirs, and that we were living in say St. Charles County at the time. I guess whatever county that I guess if it was like just St. Charles County it is, but I guess if it was south or east part of St. Charles County. But I remember that we went on a road trip back in '94 up here at the college with a friend of ours, and I can remember being in the van it was, and then knowing about that anybody would probably think about even with my family would probably think about that during the road trip it was that how come people even at the school were like wondering about that maybe how come you weren't very talkative during the time it was like how come you weren't very talkative. And I can remember my parents were even saying something maybe to some of the teachers that Matt don't talk very well too many of the students it was, and I can remember kids over there at the school a lot of times they always wonder to why that you're not going to have very many friends if you don't talk very much. But on the other hand, this kind of reminds me of a story I've known about almost anybody that there are some kids that that might keep to themselves at times it is that if you have it to where that you got right here is design, of course right here is the say the loan unit. I guess that would be like what you call like a south part or you say north part of campus it is, but anyway you have right here is like a sidewalk, and then of course I can add some details right here. It's like the sidewalk, and of course if there would be like a building right here, it's like you say a few museums, and like back in like 1994 if this map of course would have taken place, it's like off of campus of 1994, a few buildings you saw a few buildings that may have been there for at least 50 years it is that they were even around, which I'm thinking that they may probably think about that there quite been a few buildings there that have always been there for the past 30 40 years it is. But anyway, let's just say that there are buildings about right here, but from what remember we did a lot of walking around a lot. It's like we walked. It's like right here. Go ahead and draw right here. It's like if this was like what you call like a sidewalk, and you got right here is a sidewalk, and anybody who maybe think about that with the sidewalk that over there off of college campus it is that like at Mizzou or it could be other colleges that they have places where you can walk. And I know a lot of times it's the summer back in 2002 I remember seeing a lot of college students, students it is, taking a tour of the college, that they'll be walking say on the sidewalk, and of course that they'll be like say a road. Anybody maybe think about that? Yeah, it's like don't forget the road. I'm like, but there'll be there'll be a street about right here. If most of us can remember, the Twilight festivals, of course, that they would have, not too far, of course, from college campus it was, but there'll be a road right here, and then with this road it would connect to another street to another road. It is anybody think with the street, and then from there, and then from another street, and but anyway, be walking around there, and then I can remember walking a little bit, but then of course I can remember that I was wearing flip-flops at the time. If I can remember right, that it was during the spring. You say if it was more likely during the spring of 1995 it was. And I can remember that a friend of ours was taking us on a tour to the college. It was that opening up the doors for us to let us in for wherever building that we were going to. And I can just remember that during the tour, of course, of the college it was, I was like, well, I don't even really know what college is. And so it's like during that time that I remember that I was getting pretty bored, say just walking around and knowing about that, hey, that okay, and before we took off on this trip though, that if I can remember right, that we got up one morning, and then we had a small breakfast, and then of course we met up with the friend. You say up there at she met her maybe at the house, the house we met at. And then I remember whenever we went on the trip, it was that we were listening to music. It was, and I can remember some of the songs that we were listening to. But I can remember that after this friend graduated, of course, from high school, it was that I can still remember her playing some music, and I was like that really graduating from high school, well, I got a long ways to go. I can remember thinking to my mind that I got a long ways to go because I'm only in the 5th grade. It is, I think if I remember right, I was only in the 5th grade back in 1994-95. So I kept thinking that I've been going to school, even 5 years seemed like a real long time to know about graduation. I'm like, what's graduation? And with anybody here that they could probably think about that may have already graduated, may have already, bought a house somewhere, whichever it is, that may think about well, they know what graduation is. But whenever you're a kid, a lot of times you're gonna maybe think whatever of knowing about whenever you're a kid, I guess you're gonna think about whatever as knowing about the fact about what's this or what's that. It is. but with me though, that whenever I was young, that I think about with school though, that if it would have been maybe a college or maybe an academy or somewhere like that, and if I can remember right, that back then that when somebody was mentioned to me about that, what was it about? Besides the college, university, I think it was something to do with maybe hear something on the news about that a country going to war with another country, whichever it was. But anyway, that let's just say if this was me right here, and that knowing about that it's like what's college? It's like if I were to have like what you call my glasses, and let's just say if I could maybe draw this to where it looked like you say a photo, taken back in like 1993, 1994 was. Go ahead and add like what you call is like maybe some cartoon, type artwork. About right down here it is. I don't know. I can't remember what I was wearing at the time. I think I was wearing some type of shirt. It was, but if I can remember right, I was wearing flip flops. It was, and I don't even have a pair of flip flops. So during this summer, that it was like that. I would not even have a pair of flip flops to wear. So anybody would probably think about that. It's. I don't bother to get them. I don't even have a pair, and I haven't bothered to buy another pair since then. But I was wearing flip flops. But during the time, of course, of this trip though, that I can remember that walking around campus it was, and then I can remember partly say walking. Doing quite a bit of walking, but then of course that part of the reason to why that I can remember walking a lot, but then of course I don't remember exactly where, and then I think that the whole walk was like you say parts and about it's like you walk towards see the museums and stuff like that. It's like I think we went into the museum, and then walked over to the columns, and then I walked back, and then from there, and then it's like, and then we were walking, taking a tour, of course, through the classroom, say at the student union, loan union, and of course a few other places, but I remember one time it's like during that trip over there that I was like with this friend of ours that we were like, hey, like, well, she has not said anything to me, and asked me a question about anything, yet. So I'm just gonna keep to myself. I'm just gonna keep quiet because I know that we were kind of busy, of course, taking a tour, of course, through the college it was, and I can remember that you're walking, you're kind of like following, it's like with my family and I, and of course that. All four of us were just walking along campus it was, and I can just remember that knowing about, had my head down a couple of times. Anybody probably think about, well, why'd you have your head down a lot of times? It's like, it seems like that there's going to be one question after another. It's like after somebody asks, it's like knowing about, well, why'd you have your head down most of the time? It's like talking about, you could have been graded, of course, on this field trip here, and knowing about that, you don't remember, of course, looking at what the mascot was. It's like if it was like what you call is like the St. Louis Science Center or anything like that. Anybody probably think about if you could have been maybe graded, of course, on from your experience, from this journey here, your field trip over there to Mizzou, or if it was a field trip over there to the Weather Center, whichever it is. Anybody probably think about that maybe the Weather Center would have been more exciting, which, we went to the Weather Center too, but it was like my experience, of course, walking around with a friend of ours, and then knowing about that, from where we were walking it was, and knowing about that one time from whenever that we were walking through the doors, and then about almost lost my balance. It was, I can remember, almost lost my balance, and then my shoe about almost fell off because apparently that, like I said before, step by step, the step by step coloring explains about the fact about that the tall buildings and stuff like that. And I can remember walking in to one of the buildings that I can remember that it was real hot outside. I can remember walking into a building, and then I can feel the cool air coming through, like if there was air conditioning running at the time in one of those buildings where they had a few classrooms and stuff. But I remember walking, about almost lost my balance, and I can remember that the person that friend that we were with would not say too much to me. She would be talking to a few my siblings and I, and of course with my mom too, and then knowing about that she wouldn't say too much to me, and I had the time. It was like that that yeah, I kind of felt, kind of like that to where that, it's like not gonna say too much to me, and then knowing about, well, it's like, you know, you know, we all went on this trip, and then knowing about that yep, it's all, of course, related to this friend of ours, and knowing about she's going to college, and during that time, of course, it was just like that, yeah, that a lot of the things, of course, that we did together, I would enjoy doing them, but on the other hand, it just seems like that yep, anything that may have been related to school, huh? I may have number of reasons to why maybe I got bored out of my mind, but it was like that, a friend of ours that was like that she was more of a friend to my siblings. It's like other than with me though, that she talked to me at times though, but it was like that whenever I would see her a lot of times, it was like that she mainly would talk to other members to say of my family, it was, other than talking to me. And whenever I was in school, that I can remember that I wasn't very talkative, because it seemed like that whenever I do talk, it seems like people would kind of look at me. It's like strange or whatever. It's like what are you talking about? Strange. But anyway, about that is what I looked like back then. I guess I can go ahead and maybe add like what you call, like maybe see here, go ahead and with the crayon here, go ahead and add a little bit of detail right here. It's like for the face right here, and then add a little bit of blue, see, for the background. But basically that for the the type of attention whenever she this friend asked me if I was alright whenever I was about almost lost my balance, it was just like that it was like kind of caught my attention for whatever reason. It kind of caught my attention of knowing the fact about that. Well, I didn't know if she was it's like that a lot of things that were coming to my mind, and I don't know if I'm ever really going to understand about what it all meant, about the fact about that she was more of a friend to somebody else other than like what you call is like to me. But on the other hand too, that it's like that knowing about that it's like so far as if something were to happen to where that I'm sure it's happened before, that anybody who's taken a walk maybe around college campus it is, and then wind up getting lost, wind up getting left behind, and more likely that anybody can maybe think about that there ain't nobody that's going to be coming looking for me. It's like, and it's happened once or twice, a couple of times, not on college campus, but about I think in the grocery store, once or twice in the grocery store. I can still remember that song. It's like I think it's Air Supply who sings it. It's like talk about, well, wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. And no matter how long it takes, no matter how my heart breaks, it is. But every time I would listen to that song, it was a lot of times it would kind of remind me of a sad moment of knowing about that. During part of my childhood life, I can remember that. It's like thinking about that. For at some point of the moment, to where if I was left behind by accident, that somebody said that they were only going to wait maybe 10 minutes and then they were going to leave or something like that. But on the other hand, that during this experience though with this trip right here is talk about for the family friend story, is talking about that during that time that I whenever my family and I went on this trip, it was just like that knowing about that I'll be patient, more likely I think it was I'll be more patient, conservative, maybe if somebody tends to talk to me, if they want to talk to me, because I remember that a lot of times during the trip that not too many people were talking to me. And it seems that way though, that with most of my time, it's like talk about anybody will probably think about so far with your college possibility. And I can remember talking to my parents, of course, about college though. That of course my mom and dad both, of course, that they both said that they would pay for me to go to college if I wanted to go to college. It was, and I kept thinking about that ever since the field trip here, ever since the field trip, to maybe like Raleigh University, and of course with Mizzou it was. Think about it, it's like, I want to aim for a better education. I want to aim for a good education for what I can do. And with anybody who asks, it's like merely that's kind of my reason. It's like I want to aim for a good education, compared to how much it costs. But other than that, like talking about, anybody probably think about, I kept thinking about, for whatever reason, that a calculator like this to where it can solve maybe a number of math problems, in seconds it is. And it's like, well, more likely that, I probably won't have one until I'm in college. And it's like, well, I'm still not in college yet, and I got one of those. It was expensive, though. Yeah, I remember the students at the school had one of those where you can download games and stuff like that, but they said that, don't get one unless if you really need to. And so I seen it, say in Walmart. It's like whenever I was shopping around, I seen it was about $100 for one of those, and decided to go and get it. And it's like, yep, the things that calculators can do. It has a big screen, and of course, even if it does have a few games on there, I'm like, well, I'll go ahead and use it to solve math problems. It is, but anyway, but talk about the story right here about that the family friend story is that you have right here. It's like you got right here is the Francis quadrangle right here. But knowing about that, I can remember that somebody said that when it went for a walk around campus it was, but I don't remember too much any of that. And knowing about anybody probably think about that, hey, it's like, you don't remember that? Well, hey, you must be. It's like there's something going on with your mind or something. But like, say with most parents would probably say that that's just the way the brain works. And but one thing, of course, I do remember, of course, was mentioning about the fact about that if college did come to my mind a lot of times, that anybody would probably think about, whenever you're in school it is. Whenever you're in school, that you may think about all kinds of things of knowing about. We may say something like, such as, whenever whenever I graduate, me, whenever I graduate, I'm gonna, open up a business, maybe, leave, move out of town and go to get a job at an airport, whichever it is. If I can remember right, that one of the things, of course, I did say whenever I got into high school was I'm taking a year or two break, from school. Of course, it's been over 10 years, of course. It's been almost already 10 years, a little past 10 years, and still don't know really what I want to do. And I don't know, anybody probably think about that. Is that going to aggravate you even more? I can kind of. Knowing about that, don't know exactly where I want to take my career, other than the fact about that, for whatever I draw out, it's like for whenever I do my YouTube work, it's like for whatever I draw out, it's like anybody can maybe think about that anything that you can draw with your hands, of course, anything that you can imagine, from how your brain works, it's like talking about if you can picture in your mind where the Francis quadrangle is, if it's facing the north, south, or east or west, part you say of the Francis quadrangle. It's got the columns right here, and of course you got right here is the statue, say for the columns, and then you have right here is Jesse Hall. Anybody probably think about that, really? Can't really forget about Jesse Hall. Even at nighttime, you can get a pretty good view, of course, of Jesse Hall. From if it's I guess a lot of times if it's facing west it is, or north it is. But anyway, you got right here is Jesse Hall, and anybody could probably think about why is it the campus looks kind of different. At night, it is at night that looks quite different, because there's only so much I guess you can see at night. And anybody maybe think about there's only so much you can see at night, especially maybe the state capitol. It is as I go down to Jefferson City, go down to the state capitol, and at nighttime, more likely that they say that place looks a little bit different at nighttime. why is it that it looks differently at nighttime? Well, maybe because there's so much you can see. But on your hand too, that like what about your the street subdivision where you live? Huh? Does that look any different? Compared to, you say that location. Does your where you work, does it look different at night? Like like if you were a star, but I would probably say to anybody that knowing about that, when we could probably say about our handwriting looks about different. It's like 1 year my handwriting looked about like that right there, and now it looks like this right here. Anybody probably think about, really, what is the difference? Well, more likely that talk about is like talk about the scribbling mark right here. like that's the difference, huh? But other than that, like talk about between the different things. But other than that, and then your hand right here is like, say with the pencil, it's like you write M. But I can remember that if there's a right or wrong way, of course, how to write an M or an A. If it's A like this, anything like that. But anyway, MATT. A couple times anybody asked me, I'm like, it's like, how do you spell your name? Is it M-A-T-T-T-T? M-A-T-T-T-T-T-T, like M-A-T-T-H-E-W-W-W-W, it's like you're talking about, like, it's not Manaquatakigo, not but anybody probably think about, if you got a nephew that calls you by that name, more likely it's like talking about, how you doing, Uncle Vat? Anyway, but talk right here is college campus right here. But the things that you can do, of course, with your artwork, it is with your hands, and talk about the things that of course you could picture. But other than that, like talk about here for the family friend story is talking about the type of attention, of course, they have is like that with the type of attention. Anybody probably think about as knowing about the type of attention as knowing about for the attention for education, of knowing about, it's like, well, what is your major, huh? Talk about my story, of course, about say the family friend story is talking about, anybody probably think about, well, we may not remember maybe all of what we did or maybe what we said about so far as good education whenever we were a kid, though. But then of course we can maybe always remember about say our talents. It is like, so for what what we're good at, of knowing about what we're good at with our hands, it is. And anybody probably think about that with our hands, it is like talk about, it's like it's a position, this right here and then right here. It's like, hey, you think you'll be able to draw yourself if you be walking about right here? It is like, where do you want to go next? Anybody maybe think about, is that me right there? Is that me? And then I'll be walking to my left and then of course to my right. But other than that, like talk right here is talking about, we say with the family friend story coloring activity.